I'm watching the most powerful man in Korea get played by a woman he's about to insult, and he has no idea what's coming. Duang Uk sits across from Janette in this fancy restaurant, and everything looks normal. Rich guy, beautiful woman, expensive wine. But I can see what he can't. The way her eyes track every exit, how she positions her glass to catch reflections, the fact that she hasn't touched her food even once. This isn't a date. This is an operation. You speak English, Duang Uk says, not bothering to hide his disappointment. His voice is flat, cold, like he's already planning his exit. I speak a lot of languages, Janette replies, smiling. But her smile doesn't reach her eyes. He doesn't know she's been hired to protect him. Doesn't know his own advisor set this up because someone inside his organization wants him dead. All he sees is a black woman sitting where he expected someone different. This is a waste of time, he mutters in Korean, thinking she can't understand. How did they think this would work? Janette's face doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. She understood every word. That's when I realized something that makes my blood run cold. She's not just here to protect him. She's evaluating him too, watching how he treats someone he thinks is beneath him, testing whether the man she's supposed to save is worth saving. The waiter approaches their table and Duang Uk waves him away without looking up. We won't be staying long. Actually, Janette says, her voice still pleasant. I think we will. It's a simple sentence, but the way she says it changes everything. Not a suggestion, a statement. And for the first time in probably 20 years, someone just told Duang Uk what was going to happen instead of asking. He looks at her, really looks, and I see something shift in his face. Surprise. Maybe even respect. Like he's finally seeing a person instead of a category. You're not what I expected, he says. Neither are you. She leans forward slightly. I expected someone smarter. The insult lands like a physical blow. I can see his jaw tighten, his hands clench. But he doesn't leave, doesn't explode. Just sits there, studying this woman who just had the nerve to call the most feared man in Busan stupid to his face. Careful, he says quietly. People who speak to me that way don't usually what? She interrupts. Finish their dinner, go home safely, or don't usually tell you the truth about yourself. He's silent for a long moment. Outside the window, I can see 3 black cars parked across the street. His security detail, probably wondering why their boss hasn't stormed out yet. What do you want from me? Duang Uk finally asks. Nothing you're not willing to give. Janette picks up her wine glass, finally takes a sip. The question is, what do you want from yourself? That's when the green laser dot appears on the wall behind his head. You know that moment when you realize you've been watching the wrong person the whole time? When what looked like a victim was actually the one in control. If you've ever misjudged someone based on how they looked, hit subscribe, because sometimes the person you underestimate is the only one standing between you and disaster. What would you do if your life depended on someone you'd already written off? 3 seconds later, Janette flips the table and saves his life. But I'm not thinking about the gunshot or the shattered glass, or the way she tackles him to the ground like a linebacker. I'm thinking about those 3 seconds beforehand, when she saw the laser sight and had to choose. She could have ducked, could have run, could have let the bullet find its target and walked away from a man who'd spent the last 10 minutes treating her like garbage. Instead, she threw herself between death and someone who didn't think she was worth basic human respect. Now they're on the marble floor together, her body covering his, breathing hard while chaos explodes around them. The restaurant staff is screaming, diving under tables, calling 911, but Janette's calm. "Can you move?" she asks him. Duang Uk stares up at her like he's seeing a ghost. "You just saved your life? Yeah, we can process that later. Right now we need to move." She pulls him to his feet, but he's not moving fast enough, still in shock. Still trying to understand how his perfectly controlled world just got flipped upside down by a woman he was ready to dismiss. "This way." She grabs his hand, leading him toward the kitchen. "Your security is compromised. Someone inside your organization set this up." "That's impossible." But even as he says it, I can see doubt creeping in. "My men are loyal. Your men didn't know about this dinner. Only 3 people did. You, me, and whoever arranged it. They crashed through the kitchen doors, past terrified chefs and waiters who pressed themselves against the walls. Janette moves like she's memorized this building's layout, and which probably means she has. "You planned this," Duang Uk says as they hit the service stairs. It's not an accusation, it's amazement. "I planned for this. There's a difference." 16 floors down, running in heels and a torn dress, Janette never once looks back to see if he's keeping up. She knows he is. Knows that survival instinct has kicked in, overriding pride, overriding prejudice, overriding everything except the basic human need to stay alive. They burst out into the alley behind the restaurant, and the night air hits them like a wall. Duang Uk is gasping, bleeding from a cut on his forehead where glass had caught him. His perfect cream suit is ruined. "My car," he starts, "is being watched." Janette kicks off her heels, goes barefoot on the wet pavement. "We walk." "I don't walk anywhere. I have a reputation." "You have a target on your back." She grabs his arm again, firm but not rough. "Your reputation won't stop the next bullet." They move through back streets I didn't even know existed in this part of the city. Industrial corridors, construction sites, places where security cameras don't reach and streetlights barely work. After 20 minutes of silence, Duang Uk finally speaks. "Why?" His voice is quieter now, smaller. "You could have let me die. After what I said, after how I treated you, why did you save me?" Janette stops walking, turns to look at him in the dim light from a distant neon sign. "Because that's who I am," she says simply. "The question is, who are you going to be now that you know who I am?" He doesn't answer. Can't answer. Because the man who walked into that restaurant tonight was built on 40 years of certainty about how the world worked, who deserved respect, who could be trusted. That man is gone now. And whoever's standing in his place doesn't know the rules anymore. 2 hours later, we're hiding in a place that would have made Duang Uk throw up yesterday. It's a motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind with hourly rates and stains on the carpet that tell stories nobody wants to hear. Janette paid cash at the front desk while Duang Uk sat in the car, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Now he's sitting on the edge of a bed that probably costs less than his monthly dry cleaning bill, and I can see something breaking inside him. "This is where I am now," he says quietly. "Hiding in a place my own security wouldn't be caught dead in." Your security tried to get you killed, Janette reminds him. She's standing by the window, watching the parking lot through a crack in the curtains. Being here means you're alive. For how long? That depends on how fast you can accept reality. He looks at her then. Really looks. Her dress is torn, her makeup smeared, her feet still bare from running through those alleys. But she's not complaining, not asking for comfort, just watching that parking lot like a soldier on guard duty. You've done this before, he says. More times than I care to count. Why? The question comes out broken. Why do you save people like me? Janette turns from the window. People like you? People who... He stops. Can't say the words out loud. Can't admit what he really thinks about her, about people who look like her. Go ahead, she says softly. Say it. I can't. Yes, you can. Because until you say it out loud, until you own what you really believe, we can't move forward. The silence stretches between them like a wire about to snap. Outside, a car backfires, and Duang Uk jumps. The man who used to make entire rooms go quiet with his presence is now scared of random noises. I thought you were beneath me, he whispers finally. And now? Now I don't know what I think about anything. His voice cracks. The people I trusted most in the world just tried to kill me. My own advisor had to hire a stranger to keep me alive. Everything I believed about loyalty, about blood, about who deserves respect, it's all gone. Janette sits down on the other bed, facing him. Good. Good? The man who walked into that restaurant tonight was going to get himself killed. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, because he couldn't see threats coming from people he'd written off. She leans forward. The man sitting here right now? He might actually survive this. Because I'm broken? Because you're finally awake. There's something in her voice that makes him look up. Not pity, not triumph. Something that looks almost like hope? What happens now? He asks. Now we figure out who wants you dead and why, and we make sure they don't get another chance. We? Yeah, we. She stands up, goes back to the window. You're stuck with me now, whether you like it or not. For the first time since the shooting, Duang Uk almost smiles. I'm starting to think I might like it. You know that moment when everything you thought you knew about yourself gets ripped away? When the person you trusted least becomes the only person keeping you alive? If you've ever had to rebuild who you are from nothing, hit subscribe. Because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what actually matters. At 3 a.m., Janette tells him something that changes everything. She's been making phone calls for the past hour, speaking in languages I can't identify to people I can't imagine. Setting up meetings, calling in favors, building some kind of network that spans continents. Duang Uk watches her work with the fascination of a man discovering fire. This woman who he dismissed as nothing has contacts in places he's never even heard of. Who are you? He asks when she hangs up the latest call. I told you. My name is Janette. That's not what I mean. He stands up, starts pacing the small room. Nobody moves like you moved tonight. Nobody has connections like the ones you're making those calls to. Nobody saves someone's life and then takes over their security operation like it's Tuesday. Janette sets the phone down, looks at him for a long moment. You want the truth? I think I need it. I used to work for the CIA. The words hit him like a physical blow. What? Crisis negotiation, hostage extraction, asset protection in hostile territories. I did it for 8 years before I went private. Duang Uk stops pacing. The American government sent you to protect me? No. Your advisor hired me because I was the best at keeping people alive in impossible situations. The government connection is just why I'm good at my job. He sits down hard on the bed. Jesus Christ. There's more. More? The people who want you dead? They're not just inside your organization. They're connected to people in mine. Your organization? American intelligence. There's a faction that wants to see organized crime in Asia completely destabilized. They think chaos serves their interests better than the status quo. The room goes completely silent except for the hum of the cheap air conditioning unit. So this isn't just about me, Duang Uk says slowly. This is about reshaping the entire power structure in this part of the world. You're not just a target, you're the first domino. And I'm someone who decided that wasn't going to happen on my watch. He stares at her. You're protecting me from your own people. Former people. I quit 6 months ago when I found out about this operation. Why? Because I've seen what happens when powerful countries decide to remake other people's worlds. It never ends well for anyone. Duang Uk stands up again, walks to the window, looks out at the parking lot where a few hours ago he had an army and now has nothing. So what are you suggesting we do? We survive long enough to expose the whole thing? Americans, Koreans, whoever else is involved? We burn it all down. That's suicide. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way either of us lives through this. He turns back to her. You're asking me to trust you with everything. I'm asking you to trust me with your life, which, technically, you already did when I flipped that table. Something passes between them in that moment. Not romantic, not yet, but something deeper. Recognition. The understanding that they're both people who've been betrayed by the systems they thought they could count on. All right, he says quietly. What do we do first? First, we sleep. Tomorrow we start hunting the people who think they can play God with our lives. As Janette turns off the lights, Duang Uk realizes something that should terrify him, but somehow doesn't. He's never trusted anyone more completely than he trusts the woman he tried to dismiss over dinner. The next morning, I watched Duang Uk learn what it's like to be hunted. We're sitting in a coffee shop across from his organization's main building, and he's staring at his own headquarters like it's a foreign country. 24 hours ago, he owned every brick in that tower. Now he can't even walk through the front door without risking a bullet. There, Janette says quietly, pointing to a black sedan parked on the corner. Third car today. They're rotating surveillance teams every 4 hours. My own people are watching my own building to make sure I don't come home. His voice is hollow. Do you know how insane that sounds? Do you know how dead you'd be if you tried? She's right, and we both know it. The coffee shop gives us a clear view of everyone going in and out, and what I'm seeing is a military operation.
It really is.
Men in suits with earpieces, coordinated movements, the kind of security setup you use when you're expecting war. They're scared, Duang Uk says suddenly. What? Look at them. Really look. He leans forward, and for the first time since the restaurant, I see a flash of the man he used to be. Sharp, calculating, dangerous. That's not the security you use to keep one man out. That's the security you use when you're terrified that one man might come back. Janette follows his gaze. You're right. Which means they're not as unified as they want us to believe. Some of those men in there are loyal to me. They just don't know I'm alive yet. So, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we let them know. The plan is simple, which makes it either brilliant or suicidal. Janette still has contacts inside the intelligence community. People who owe her favors. People who never agreed with the destabilization operation. One phone call to the right person, and word gets back to the building that Duang Uk survived. You sure about this? Janette asks. Once we light this fuse, there's no going back. There was no going back the moment you saved my life. She makes the call. 2 hours later, we're watching chaos unfold in real time. First, 3 men walk out of the building and I don't come back. Then, the security rotation changes. Suddenly, there are faces I don't recognize, people who look nervous instead of confident. It's starting, Duang Uk says, and there's something in his voice I haven't heard before. Not the arrogance from the restaurant. Something harder, more focused. They're choosing sides. The question is, which side wins? He looks at her, this woman who's turned his world upside down, who's shown him things about himself he never wanted to see, who might be the only reason he lives through the week. The side that's willing to fight dirtier. By evening, we have our first ally. A text message to a number Janette somehow acquired. 3rd floor bathroom, midnight. Come alone. It's a trap, Janette says immediately. Probably, but it's also the only chance we have to find out who's still loyal. We don't even know who sent it. We know someone in that building wants to talk. That's more than we had this morning. You know that moment when you have to choose between playing it safe and taking the risk that might save everything? When staying hidden means dying slowly and fighting back might mean dying fast. Hit subscribe if you've ever had to bet everything on one move. Because sometimes the biggest risk is doing nothing at all. At midnight, we discovered that everyone we trusted was wrong. The 3rd floor bathroom is empty when Duang Uk walks in. Janette is watching from across the street with a sniper rifle she somehow acquired, but I can tell from her posture that something's not right. The man who shows up isn't one of Duang Uk's loyal soldiers. It's his own advisor, the one who hired Janette in the first place. Park Juan, 71 years old, walking into that bathroom like he owns it. Hello, Duang Uk, the old man says calmly. Juan. Duang Uk's voice is carefully neutral, but I can see his hands shaking. I thought you were dead. Many people think many things tonight. Most of them are wrong. Are you here to kill me? I'm here to save you, again. The conversation that follows rips apart everything we thought we understood. Juan wasn't betrayed by Duang Uk's organization. He is the betrayal. The coup was never about removing you from power, the old man explains, his voice patient like he's teaching a slow child. It was about making you depend on me completely. What are you talking about? I hired the sniper, I arranged the dinner, I paid for your protection. Juan smiles, and it's the most terrifying expression I've ever seen. I created the threat so I could be the one to save you from it. Duang Uk staggers backward like he's been shot. You tried to kill me. I tried to remake you. The old Duang Uk was too proud, too independent. too American in his thinking. But this version of you, the one who's learned to trust others, who's seen his own limitations, this version can be guided. Guided by you. Guided by wisdom. That's when the bathroom door locks from the outside and armed men file in. Not Duang Uk's enemies. Juan's soldiers, who've been playing both sides since the beginning. Where does she fit in? Duang Uk asks, and I know he's talking about Janette. The American was supposed to die in the restaurant, a tragic accident during your rescue. Juan shrugs. Her survival complicated things, but it doesn't change the outcome. Which is? You return to power, grateful to be alive, dependent on my counsel for everything, and I guide this organization into the future it deserves. Without her. She's American intelligence, Duang Uk. Even if she's gone rogue, she represents everything that threatens our sovereignty. She has to be eliminated. Through the window I can see Janette moving. She's spotted the trap, seen the soldiers, and she's making a choice. The same choice she made in the restaurant when she saw that laser sight. There's just one problem with your plan, Duang Uk says quietly. What's that? You taught me something I should have learned years ago. His voice gets stronger, more certain. Loyalty isn't about blood or tradition or shared culture. The window explodes inward as Janette crashes through it, rifle in her hands, already firing before her feet hit the ground. It's about who shows up when everything goes to hell. In the chaos that follows, as gunfire fills that bathroom and Juan's carefully laid plans disintegrate into violence, I realize something that changes everything. The most dangerous person in that room isn't the crime boss or the CIA agent or the manipulative old advisor. It's what they become when they fight together. 6 months later, I'm watching the most powerful man in Korea propose to a woman he once called beneath him, and she's about to say no. We're in the same restaurant where this whole thing started, but it's been completely rebuilt after the shooting. New windows, new furniture, new everything, except the people sitting at the same table are completely different too. Duang Uk isn't the same man who walked in here half a year ago. The arrogance is gone, replaced by something quieter but stronger. The kind of strength that comes from being broken down and choosing to rebuild yourself better. Janette, he says, holding out a ring that probably costs more than most people's houses. Will you marry me? She looks at it for a long moment. Then she looks at him. Ask me again in Korean, she says. His face goes white. Because we all know what that means. She wants him to propose in the language he used to insult her. The language he thought she couldn't understand when he called her beneath him. Janette, he starts in English. Korean, she repeats firmly. If you want me to be your wife, ask me in the language you used to dismiss me. The restaurant goes quiet. Everyone's watching, waiting to see if the most feared man in the city will humble himself completely for the woman who saved his life. Duang Uk closes his eyes. When he opens them, everything in his face has changed. Janette, he says in Korean, his voice shaking. Will you forgive a foolish man who judged you by everything except who you really are? Will you marry someone who spent 40 years being wrong about what makes a person worth loving? It's not just a proposal. It's a confession, an apology, a complete surrender of everything he used to believe about superiority and blood, and who deserves respect. Will you choose me? He continues, even though I didn't choose you first, even though I had to nearly die to see who you really were? Tears are running down Janette's face now. Say it again. Will you marry me? No, the other part, about being wrong. Duang Uk takes a shaky breath. I was wrong about everything. About you. About what makes someone worthy of love. About what blood means and what loyalty looks like. I was wrong, and you were right, and you saved me anyway. Again. I was wrong. Louder. I was wrong. His voice cracks. I was wrong about you, wrong about myself, wrong about everything that mattered. And you saved me anyway. You saved me when I didn't deserve it, when I couldn't see past my own hate, when I was too stupid to recognize the best thing that ever happened to me. Janette reaches across the table and takes his hands. Yes, she says simply. Later, and after the champagne and the congratulations and the photos, I watched them walk out of that restaurant together. Same door, same street, but everything else has changed. What happens now? Duang Uk asks her. Now we build something better than what came before? Together? Always. You know what it's like to realize you've been wrong about everything you thought you believed? When someone shows you grace you didn't earn and love you didn't deserve? If you've ever had your whole world turned upside down by someone you underestimated, hit subscribe. Because sometimes the person who changes your life forever is the one you almost walked away from. What prejudice did someone else's love help you overcome? Drop it in the comments. We all need reminding that transformation is possible even for people like us.